Welcome everybody, and thanks for coming at such short notice to what's a fantastic, spontaneous little gathering here. There must have been many people who woke up this morning feeling quite disillusioned when they saw in the newspaper or on morning TV that our Prime Minister had taken the soft option, pushed the responsibility for this greatest of all problems out a decade for some other political leader, for some coming generation to deal with. And what today's action is about is saying that where Kevin Rudd has failed, we'll step forward, we'll take leadership, we'll solve this problem. We won't leave it for the too hard basket. And with me today, I've got Green Senator Rachel Siewert, one of those stalwarts of the federal parliament, and a group of newly elected Green councillors who are going to tell us a bit later how they're going to take action through their council. And I want to hear from all of you before we leave today, in 25 words or less, how you're not going to let this be a setback, how you're not going to be disheartened, how you're not going to simply go home and change your light bulbs and hope that somewhere someone else takes the action and takes leadership, but how we as a group will step into the now yawning chasm between the will of Kevin Rudd and the need of this coming crisis. So I'll introduce Rachel Siewert, who needs no further introduction.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Unlike the Rudd government and their friends, the Greens will not be showing and never have shown the white flag on climate change. I'm standing with my back to Cabinet today because that is what the Greens will be doing. We're showing our backs to the Rudd's position, the Rudd's government position on climate change. We're not showing the white flag. The Greens, with the community, will be showing leadership, because it's now that the people will be showing the government the way forward on climate change. We cannot let the government let this 5% target stand, because the community knows that if we allow the government to get away with setting a measly 5% target, we know that opens the door and it means dangerous climate change. We know with that 5%, it's the death of the Great Barrier Reef. We know it's the death of the Murray-Darling system. And we, the community, cannot and will not let that happen. The government needs to be sent a very clear message that 5% is not going to be tolerated by the community. And the community will again show the government the way. We have to. We have to, because there will be no environment left for our grandchildren and for our great-grandchildren if we don't show the government that they're mistaken, that they've linked their wagon to the polluters who have been the ones that have been in denial the whole time. And now they've come up with this measly 5%, which means we know that will go into that critical area of dangerous climate change. And we know we cannot allow that to happen. The Greens, at the beginning of the next session of Parliament, will be referring this to the Senate inquiry to look at the adequacy of the 5% target. We know that's the only way that scientists will get their say and be able to review this measly 5%. As I said, we've announced terms of reference today for that inquiry, and we'll be moving it first thing when Parliament sits at the beginning of February. We simply cannot allow this 5% to stand. The way the government has allowed big industry to dictate this debate, giving exemptions all over the place, giving compensation, but not using that to drive change. 2% or 3%, I think, of the money that's been allocated is actually allocated to energy efficiency and to driving change. How crazy is that? Rubbish, exactly. So now we've got a 5% target and we haven't even got the incentives in place to drive change. Well, the community knows that's wrong, and between now and 2010, we need to send a clear and strong message to government and the industry that they're backing that is not to be tolerated. We need real targets and real change from this government. They came into power with a promise they'll do something about climate change, and what have they done? 5%. Yeah. It's not good enough. Mr. Rudd, no 5%.
A journalist wrote in his news article over the weekend that even if Western countries reduced their emissions to zero, other countries would take up the slack. Well, he missed the point, didn't he? Because of course we have to reduce our emissions to zero. That's the path we're on. Even on the day when our emissions and the world's emissions go to zero, climate change doesn't start to fix itself. That's our new climate. And from there we'll have to be working out how to repair the climate. But clearly Mr. Rudd thinks a 5% target represents leadership. And if he believes that, what does he think of us as Australians? He must think we're a small people, timid, lacking in vision, scared, unwilling to work together, unwilling to work with other nations to solve this diabolical problem. But we have a great chance to show him that we're made of more than that. That we're not just going to be atomised back into our own little households, worrying about the problem and trying to take action as individuals. We're willing to take action collectively, like we're doing here today, at our international level, at national level, and even at local government. Around Melbourne today we've got 7 other protests at federal MPs' offices, including they've just occupied Nicola Roxon's office and climbed up on the roof.
Fantastic!
So people from the West are thrilled about that. And if you've still got energy for a bit more later today, there'll be the cyclist protests on Swanston Street about the proposal to turn that from Melbourne's best bicycle route back into a traffic sewer like it used to be so many years ago. So there are many opportunities out there to take action, to get involved, to show the Rudd government, but most importantly our friends and neighbours and the community at large, that this is not a step backwards we're prepared to accept. We're going forward. There's a great future for our communities and for the world if we come to grips with climate change. And to finish this up, and just to get those lungs moving a little bit, Rachel's going to say a couple more things.
Thank you, Greg. As you've heard, there's no excuse. We can actually take real action now. So I think we should send a message to Mr. Rudd. No excuse, Mr. Rudd. Real action now. People want to join me? No excuse, Mr. Rudd. Real action now. No excuse, Mr. Rudd. Real action now. No excuse, Mr. Rudd. Real action now. What do we want? Real action now.